when attachment types say that they're not sure, that they're not clear, it's like, well, I can see your fucking location. What the fuck are you
Right.
talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
It seems like attachment can be like a premature yes, and rejection like a premature no in a certain way.
Hmm.
Mhm. Frustration is like, yes, but it's all wrong or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a yes with a bunch of mini no's. That I've said a yes, but I'm pissed at it.
Ooh, yeah. Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
The big hormone enneagram.
Let me lay it on the line. I got a little freakiness inside. Let you know that the man has got to deal with it.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres, 4 with 5 wing, 458 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with a 1, 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing-7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 369 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
Because you are social blind, and I guess I accepted when you said, "Oh, I don't really, feel into my own attachment," and so it
Huge.
kind of brings up, the question of what is attachment when you take out social. Like, I've known you for a long time, because I haven't seen it in you.
Yeah. So, and that's a really interesting conversation. I mean, on one level, you could say you could see better what attachment is with somebody who's a Bermuda with social. And on another level, you could say you could see more what attachment is in my case, where there's two fixes that are not attachment fixes and I'm social blind. You know what I mean? To get like which one gives you the essence, and maybe it's both in some way.
Well, it's not just the fact that you're social blind and you have Hexad fixes, but you've kind of had a life experience that has set you up to push away from like repressing attachment of any kind. And we
Yeah.
talked about this yesterday. Like, me and John are triple Hexad boys, but we have sort of a life experience and family sort of foundation where
Yep.
we've even though we don't have any attachment types, that we've kind of just created family wherever we went.
Yeah, that's really true.
And
Yeah.
like we just assuming that we'd have family, and it's kind of saying something about I take it for granted that I just grew up in a stable family with two parents, and I just thought this is just the way it is. But a lot of people don't have that as a backdrop, and you didn't. And a lot of what you've done in life can be explained from the perspective of pushing away from that sense of family. And even though me and John are triple Hexad, like we've basically just assumed that we'd always have family, like being there for people, like really, really being there for people is something that we just assume. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, part of my weird story is doing attachment through sort of pseudo seduction with older women as a child. That was me doing attachment, actually.
Yeah.
That was me.
Mhm.
Like, even though it's sexual, well, that's all I knew, because social is the actual fucking real relationship instinct, right?
Mhm.
And you know what I mean? It's like that's actually like seeing where somebody's at without, I mean, I'm idealizing, but essence of social is tending to somebody just with no self intention there to get something back. It's like a parent to a child, right?
Mhm.
Or whatever. And so being social ass, I had no, well, I didn't even know what the fuck that was. I didn't even know that was a thing. And so to me, it just made sense, of course, totally unconsciously, that, connection, attachment is, self-involved, self-prezi, self-involved. What stuff am I going to get from this? And sexual, right? And that mishmash of self-present sexual, which is, really kind of dark in a certain way. You know what I mean? It's because it just doesn't have that wholesome light. And because I of social, and because of not having the familial setup, of in my formative years, I kind of had no sense of that architecture of the family and what that would bring. To me, it's like everybody's just wanting some yummy, sensual, good stuff for themselves. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's it. Right. Let's just get yummy, gooey, sexy, intriguing, interesting, mysterious goodies from each other, and that's the best we're going to do. And so that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, one thing I told him, or I landed on at least thinking about this whole thing, is that he talked about, in the call about David, how his mom was basically treated him like an adult, and how that sort of fed into the sense of not mattering. And me in my childhood, my parents were highly involved in sort of controlling everything that we did. So even though I felt that that was fucked up from my 8 perspective, it still sent a message of these motherfuckers really care in their own way.
Yeah.
They're really
Yeah, yeah.
they're really invested. And so I was starting to think about, David seducing second mothers, and because there was a scenario where one of these women that he had seduced was fighting with his mother on whether she was going to adopt him. I was like, what? So
Yeah.
so it's created this it's created this thing where his mother had to care and show that she
Yeah.
cared about him, because she had a fight with some other woman over this son that and so there's a way that he was maybe trying to get the attachment and goodies through this way of seducing second mother, is maybe unconsciously trying
Maybe even to make my mother jealous. So to speak.
yes.
Right. Wow.
It did work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting example of
Yeah.
attachment from the perspective of the social blind 9.
And yeah, and one thing, there was a conversation with John over the last few days. Well, basically, he told me that I'm crazy, and that's exactly right.
Understatement of the year.
And
Glad someone said it. Jeez.
But I mean, it's interesting because I've been feeling, that's another thing, I guess, in my progression, that I've been feeling more and more just over the last couple of years. It's been coming to a head, is just, wow. Just all of that shit that I just said, all of that really dark kind of, I don't know, just underworld kind of way of trying to do attachment, that just creates some real insanity. And also just basic stuff of not addressing, just never having had a father, and all of that stuff, and the abandonment of that, and not ever even having those conversations really in a significant way with my mother, and then being you can imagine, just that's a fucking recipe for some fucking weird ass shit. Yeah. So I'm fucking really crazy, and I appreciate you guys sticking with me.
We're all some fucking weirdos here, but
Yeah,
you're
no,
a
for
special
sure.
you're a special case.
Oh man. I don't know why you guys stuck it out with a crazy person though. What the fuck's wrong with you?
It makes all of us
Uh,
feel normal, so
Good-
we appreciate it.
Because we love you, David.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
but
we do.
Thanks.
I do like this thing of I like us all together, of course, but I do like this thing of the branching off, because David Alexander pod came out earlier today or something, or yesterday, whenever it was. But I was listening to a little bit today, and it was great, and it was refreshing,
I was really happy how that one turned out. I was surprised. The new one.
Well, you both were like, oh, I don't know what I don't know if we have anything to say, and then it's great and it's interesting and fascinating, and it's that's one of the attachment things I think
That's it right there.
is y'all not being able to see yourselves, whereas to us you're all very specific, and
Yeah.
so I think that's one of the things that can become a conflict, is
Yeah.
Like I'll see Alexander's very specific, and she'll experience herself as non-specific, and so then I get frustrated because I'm like, you're specific. Why aren't you being specific? You know?
Yeah.
That's part of the thing I was experiencing, like listening to the podcast. I expected it to be a lot worse than, because you guys have, framed it that way.
Shit on ourselves all for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is going to be, I mean, it was still kind of, slow from the perspective of two nines talking, but it wasn't, it wasn't slow from the, you guys were putting out good stuff. It was more like energetic. I realized like, there's like sharp corners when you have Hexad types talking, because it just feels like, oh, there's like an engine rev that happens here. And so with two nines, it's kind of like it's like a flowy kind of watery feeling where you might end up just slowly falling asleep, not because it's boring, but just energetically, that's what it feels like. But I was, it was good. Like, once you take out the meandering, whatever, or the times that people, David would stop and say, or Alexander would stop, I don't know, where that goes, or what I'm saying or what I'm doing. But it's like there was a fucking specific through line of conversation and thought. Like you guys were going somewhere, and it was clear that you were trying to figure something specific out. So I was listening to it, thinking to myself, this is what frustrates me about attachment types.
Yeah.
Is like, y'all are saying, oh, the yes is ambiguous, but there's a specific thing going on.
Right.
And y'all don't see it. And it's not just that Hexad types are over specific. It's like, maybe we just have super clear vision. I don't know, but it's like, it's there. It was there the whole time. And so when attachment types say that they're not sure, that they're not clear, it's like, well, I can see your fucking location. What the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly.
There were some really interesting points made, just about the degrees of yes and no. And it really helped me understand some of my own frustration with attachment types, because it's like saying, oh, because I think Alexander said something about there's an individuated side of you that says yes to something, but the attachment stuff says no. That helped me understand the attachment stuff, the different degrees of yes and no, where the yes is coming from. And maybe what's going on with attachment types is like, they're just going to say the thing that's going to get them the attachment kind of going along, even though this whole complicated mess is going on inside of them. They're just gonna pick a yes for now. And so that helped me understand what the fuck is so frustrating about that.
Yeah, I think we did actually uncover some other layers. I think it's it's probably an endless conversation on one level.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like attachment can be like a premature yes, and rejection like a premature no in a certain way. And so it's like I'm not quite sure where I stand from the point of view of frustration and what that means, but I thought that was a really fascinating contrast, because dealing like with other eights, like I haven't experienced this from Emeka. I've experienced this from Emeka toward me, but like like sometimes with rejection, my dad's a rejection type. It's like the no just comes in so fast to a point where you don't always the rejection type, it's like they don't always see how they're wounding themselves in the no. Like they might cut off a relationship, cut off an experience, cut off a thing, and the cutoff is just so reflexive and natural that maybe they don't there's not it's like, so, but then you see them, or like both my parents are rejection types, and so like I can just see like how there's a certain self-inflicted wound of saying no to things that it could be like comparably frustrating to the attachments yes in a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. From the perspective of attachment types, saying a premature yes. Well, and one thing I got away from it is that it's like they know that their yes is complicated, but they're not expressing the complicated yes.
Right.
And also, it's not that rejection and frustration types, like their yeses and nos are complicated as well, and like you can give a yes or no with caveats, like
right.
Part of what is obnoxious about Hexad types, I guess, is that they'll just tell you the reasons. Yes, but I don't like this. I don't like this, and this, or whatever. Or they'll say yes, and they'll just change their mind the next day. Like they
Yeah.
don't. It's not about like continuing this sort of "I'm with you"
Ooh, yeah.
thing. So it's like I'm just gonna fucking give you where I'm at currently. Because it's not like Hexad types don't do the thing of saying yes and then saying no next week or the next day. It's just that they don't care about where you're at
Yeah.
as much.
hmm
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to frame up frustration as like yes, but it's all wrong or something. You know what I mean?
Right,
something.
right. No, it's like I mean, we were talking very briefly before we jumped on here, Alexander and I, like, you know, she was with a 7 and then now a 4. And there's this that I've said a yes, but I'm pissed at it.
Ooh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, a yes with a bunch of mini no's.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
To me,
Yeah.
to me, frustration, because I've got 2 fixes and I've got the one wing, it's you're addicted to being frustrated. And
Uh-huh.
so if you're addicted, that's a
Yeah.
kind of yes, you're going towards it, but you're gonna critique the fuck out of it and say everything that's wrong with it.
That's Brian does that, and that just explained a lot.
Mm.
'Cause he's 9-wing-1 and we're apartment searching, and
Yeah.
I'm constantly like, he'll say things and I'm like, so that's a no, and he's like, no, it's fine, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like it's fine, and he's like,
Yeah.
it's fine, I never said no. I'm like, but you just listed 20 things that you didn't like.
Yeah.
Well, like for the frustration point of view, yeah, there's like this, that is what I want, but there's these like features around it that are like driving me insane, or like
Mhm.
that make it not what I want, or, you know, this kind of a thing. It's like, oh, I'm trying to think of a neutral example. Like, oh, I want to like live in New York, but it means having to live in this place, which fucking sucks. You know, this kind of a deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, from my perspective, it feels like it takes a lot for me to get to yes on anything.
Mhm.
Most things are just like, nothing, and so I don't even really care about anything. But generally, I do have degrees of no, and yes seems such a rare experience, but it's such a specific experience that everything that's not that feels like it's not worth it. It's not even worth touching.
Mm.
So, but if I do experience an overt sense of disgust, like it's so easy for me to go straight to no, because that's the baseline. Like if I experience some really overt negative aspect of something, that I can just switch to fucking, it's this should have never touched me to begin with.
Right.
That
right.
it's I guess people are experiencing, man, how easily that a rejection type can cut something or someone off. Is that that's what it feels like to me, is that if I experience something so negative and it's overt for me, it's like this thing should have never touched me, or this person should have never touched me. Like we are like complete deadness. um but yeah, but it takes a lot for me to get to yes, and so that is such a rare experience. So maybe to some people it feels like, how are you this certain? It's like, yeah, everything feels so not it, and so when it is it, it's like, oh man. But then you realize that something wasn't
Right.
it. It's like, this should have never touched me to begin with, and so that's what it feels like.
That phrase is really interesting and impactful to me. Never touched me, because like attachment is, well, everything's already touching. Everything is already touching.
No.
Yeah. So and so yeah, just that degree of a wall and such a sharp slice. I mean, I just feel that viscerally in my body from that phrase. This should have never touched me.
I mean,
It's bizarre. It's wild.
like for example, as an 8, I say this over and over again because it's very true for me. It takes a lot to get to me. Like it takes a lot for
Mhm.
me to say yes to someone or something. So it's always significant, and so when someone gets or something gets beyond the boundary that I've put up between me and the rest of the world, and I discover that that was a mistake, like the amount of anger and I don't even know if I have a word to describe the kind of feeling that I have, that I let something in that shouldn't have been in there. And so it's this sense that I've got to chop this thing off like yesterday, last week. Like it's that sense of all the white blood cells have to kill this thing immediately because it shouldn't have made it in.
Yeah.
Feels like such a violation to me. So yeah, there's a sense of like, what can I allow to touch me, and from the starting point of no. And so yes is such a significant experience, and just sort of protecting myself from that experience of letting the wrong things touch me. It's a whole thing.
Yeah,
Stuff is
like I was talking in the chat a little bit about like when I was in college, all that kind of like mental health stuff I was going through, and like sense of being invaded and birth defect obsession, and like I know I'm not a rejection type, but I've got a lot of it in me, and just this sense of like but the rejection and the frustration go together as like trying to separate.
Yeah.
And so like I had a very weird like like all of my germ stuff and stuff like that, but it's like to me it was all this thing about like I have to like get my soul away from the world. Like I have to just separate. It's like in similar to what Emeka's speaking to, is like like having to touch into like human life feels like such a violation of something. And that's where like the yes but a bunch of no's or whatever comes in of frustration, because it's like there are some things I do have to say yes to, that to survive and to like to not live a half life or something. And you can feel that like one-ish like I want to be in a monastery and just like not interact with anything, not out of five-ish. I mean, I guess there's like five-ish too, but just that like the badness I need, like the contaminationness, like I need to get the fuck away from. But everything I say yes to is going to be full of all these contaminants, basically.
How does that hit you, Nancy? Like this extreme Hexad point of view.
Hmm. I mean, I'm kind of not letting it hit me, to be honest. I'm
why? What happens for you that makes you want to not let it in?
well, I'm just kind of in like my own space listening to you guys, to be honest. Like I'm not like zoned out, like I'm listening, but it's just sort of like other things are coming up.
Like what?
It's mostly like about how much I dislike where my life is right now. So it's just sort of like I'm just like experiencing a little bit of like jealousy and like anger at where I am right now and how there's not much I can do to change it. And so it's just kind of making me like shut down a little bit listening.
Hmm.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
That's okay.
I guess why do you feel that way? Because it seems like you're moving in directions that you want to go, right?
I am, and that's the problem. But it's like this period of where I'm not there yet.
Okay.
It's like I feel like I'm doing everything I can, and it's just like I'm currently like just very much miserable with my day-to-day life. So
is one way to say it that John and Emeka are articulating an aspect of yourself where you would rather be cut off from the current situation. You would rather not have to be infected by it. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. That's pretty similar to it. It's I would just rather not have all of this attachment stuff riding on me. Like I would rather just know what I want and go for it right away, and just I'm not able to do that.
Well, I think one thing that listening to all this, or listening to the one that just came out, at least kind of landing on the different ways that we're not better off. It's like,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of stuff that I'm realizing that the Hexad types are more specific, but it's like specific from the point of view of cutting themselves off from a large portion of reality. The premature no is a big thing. Like, and this is something I struggle with, is that I do know, like, for example, this is just a dumb example, but because I'm the one who looks over whoever requests to join the Facebook group, and because we've had a couple crazy people who want to keep sending alt into the group, now I have to create this rule that says if you are using an alt, then I'm not going to let you in. But guess what? There are lots of people who aren't crazy who use alts. Like they just created a Facebook profile just to, interact in these groups.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But this is my rejection point of view is like, I'm going to shut out the fucking probably 80% of the alt profiles that come through that are probably just normal people.
Yeah.
Keep out
Right.
this fucking idiot. So this is part of an example of what rejection types are doing is like, I'm saying that I don't like this. I don't want this. And so when I see that in somebody, I'm cutting them off.
So
I keep doing that, and which means that I'm probably saying no to a lot of things that I could say yes to, and it'd be okay. And so there's a lot of existence that I'm cutting myself off from. So I mean, this is something we're gonna have to get into because I can
Yeah.
see attachment types like listening to me and John or any other Hexad type and thinking, oh, wouldn't that be nice? It's
Right.
not that
So-
great.
So let me. So there's an important thing to to me in all of this is it can sound like what we're saying, sort of the collective of what's coming into some of these conversations is it can sound somewhat like the Hexad types in some way are doing essence because they're doing the thing that's somewhere down deeper, at least, than this sort of surface attachment stuff. And it's important to understand or say that the Hexad types are in the shit and the muck of personality just as much as attachment types are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
'Cause that's 100% like I have a really hard time just listening to this and like being present with it because I'm like, it just sounds like you guys are just like living the way that I wish I could live, and it's just like, just fuck right off.
No, yeah, that's I think John has said, there's attachment to frustration and attachment to rejection. It's also a very limited lens. Okay, so attachment types are attached to the attachment, and I'm attached to the rejection. So it seems that I'm more individuated, but I'm also missing out on a lot.
Yeah.
There's a
Right.
lot that I'm saying no to that because I want to keep out this fucking idiot. I'm saying no to a bunch of people who aren't fucking idiots. Just because I've created this rule that if I see this, then I'm chopping it off. And I'm doing that in multiple areas of my life where it's, yeah, I'm keeping out the virus, but I'm also keeping out some good cells too.
Exactly.
So it's like this overactive white blood cell system that wants to cleanse, but ends up killing good cells.
And also, you need some of the infection to be immune from it.
There you go. So I
Right.
definitely don't want people to end up listening to us thinking, oh, hexads are better. It's like, this is helping me understand hexad, understanding attachment is helping me understand how fucked up hexad is.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me understand. Like I feel like I have a little bit of frustration somewhere in me, like maybe it's my forewing or whatever, but like I relate a lot to it. It's just
Mhm.
not what's at the forefront, and so it's like even more frustrating to listen to it because I can feel it in me and it's like never going to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, just listening to the last conversation with Alexander and David, just what attachment types are able to do in terms of channeling and being able to the internal and external channels. There's a clear sight there. And, there's going to be different ways that hexad versus attachment types have to get out of their own way because they're both limited just in very different ways. It's like, okay, the hexad types can't fucking see anything outside of their little slice of reality that they've fixated on, and then the attachment types are seeing both in and out and
Mhm.
they're getting caught between it. We have to work on different things,
Yeah.
but we're both fucked up.
Right.
But I've
Yeah.
been hearing people just say stuff about the last few episodes, attachment type saying, oh, I don't relate to what Nancy's saying. And I'm just reminded of, David's experience of just waking up to his own attachment.
Yeah. It's
Um,
can be so hidden
yeah.
and secretive.
And it takes on so many different forms because it is so connective. You know what I mean? It's got a million, it's probably got more flavors or colors to it, if that makes sense. Whereas the Hexad types are sort of more just one color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like they're
Right.
the primary colors and we have all the hues. So they're like, well,
Yeah.
this is green. And we're like, yeah, we've got 20 greens, buddy. I'm gonna need you to be more specific.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we hit on some stuff today. And also, Courtney wants to come on like soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
I'm talking to Courtney maybe Thursday. And so yeah, she'd be great to have on either this coming weekend or the following weekend, depending on how things go with this.
Okay. Whenever she's ready to come on, I'd love to hear what she's getting, because that attachment type magic, just be able to articulate things like everybody gets it.
Yeah,
Yeah, really, for real,
he's got a talent.
for real.
John,
Good.
how are you doing with your book?
Yeah, my mom keeps asking about your book. By the way, she's dying to read it.
I think it's all fucking edited, ready to go. I'm having a conversation with Amara, who's been helping me do all the nitty gritty of publishing and
Mhm.
printing. And I feel like when it's ready and I can upload it, it should go real quick.
Okay.
So I think that there might be like a few little dumb kinks to work out over the weekend, and then I'm thinking maybe next week
Ooh.
it'll be ready. So that might be a little optimistic, but I'm also gonna just like fucking push it too. Like I might just push it. So I need it out, and I'm so sick of it, and it's got what it really needs now. So
Right.
Cool.
Perfect. Good
Yeah.
news.
cool.
And then we could start
Well,
working on our book.
Yeah.
For real. No, this is gonna be a
Mhm.
book.
This
This
is
is gonna
huge.
be a book. This is like nobody in psychology is talking about this or has the language for it.
Oh man. So fucking big.
Like even object relations is because the object relations calls with Courtney were so huge, because there wasn't really anything that you could find online that really went into object relations with that much depth. So like doing Hexad versus attachment, that's a whole nother new territory that no one's covering.
Right, and I've got 2 object relations books. One is like a classic Gun Trip. Gun Trip is one of the researchers that I want to read like before we write something, and then I've got another one called Object Relations Therapy Using the Relationship. That's like supposed to be also one of the few books that articulates object relations well beyond just the scope of any Enneagram and stuff. And it'd be good to have that kind of foundation or something from which to that might yield different kinds of insights as well. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Sure. Mhm.
I'm getting
Did-
prepared.
Courtney, did she what was her background that she was able to pull those insights, or was just her intuition from you guys talking?
She did a whole lot of research in childhood and infant psychology before she had her kids.
Oh, okay.
And so she went into a lot of she'd really given that a lot of time and study, and there were some other things I just don't remember. She let's see, she says she said in terms of just object relations, Hexad, and attachment, she said she's got some stuff for relationships that she thinks would be interesting. So we're gonna we'll see how it goes in a flesh out conversation. But yeah, anyway, I gotta get going because of this meeting. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right,
Okay.
later, guys.
All right,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye guys. Bye.